Hello and welcome everyone. A new episode of Money Means Business. Today we are going to tackle a number of economic events and a number of efforts exerted by Egypt to push forward our economic process in general and to attract more investments. More investments coming from all over the world, whether from the Arab, African, Asian or European countries. We are going to dedicate the lion's share of our episode to the Suez Canal Economic Zone and how it's really promoting itself to be one of the most important economic zones worldwide, not only according to its geographic location, but also to the mega projects which are being implemented on the ground, and work is continuing there even as we speak. Right after the short break, I'm going to return back with more, so stay tuned. Welcome back. As we promised, we are going to start with the Suez Canal Economic Zone, and particularly after an important meeting which took place between the head of the Suez Canal Economic Zone and visiting ambassador of France here in Egypt, the French ambassador to Cairo, and his accompanying delegation paid a visit to the Suez Canal Economic Zone, and they had a meeting with the head of the Economic Zone, Walid Kemaluddin, and they discussed a number of issues of mutual concern, particularly promotional tour in Paris. To shed more light on this and on other economic files we have in our episode, we are very much delighted to have with us Mr. Shireen Al-Naggar, our international expert of maritime industry. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Always a pleasure, sir, to have you. And in fact, I'd like to start with the cooperation between Egypt and many European countries. And here the example is France. And to have this meeting, meaning that we are about to know more about economic cooperation between Egypt and France in various domains. But how about the Suez Canal Economic Zone as a source of attraction for foreign investments?
Well, if you look at Europe in general, you will see that we have a lot of potential for Europe. First of all, after the Ukrainian war, there is a lot of interruption of energy supplies, and there is a lot of interruption of supply chains to various European industries, and that has prompted some of the countries, like especially France and also Germany, Italy, and even the United Kingdom, to seek more cooperation in a place where there is more stability, like Egypt in the Middle East. First of all, with the devaluation of the Egyptian currency, the cost of manufacturing or the cost of processing in Egypt is very much reduced compared to that of that in Europe, especially in France, where of course the living standard is pretty high. The other thing is that France, Germany, and Italy are very much energy dependent, and their dependence on energy is becoming heavier and heavier when the industry goes into its heights. Now you can see a lot of reports on the market showing that the French and the German industries have suffered considerably because of the interruption of gas supplies from Russia into Europe generally. So the idea is that the French are coming over to cooperate with the Suez Canal Economic Zone, which has been developing quite rapidly over the past few months, and it is going to get bigger and bigger with time. Now they are trying to copy the Chinese, who are very big in Suez. They are trying to copy the Russians, who are also becoming very big. There is a lot of information, and there's a lot of
By the way,
business.
many experts are saying that Europe is a little bit late, because Russia and China did it before, and there is very fruitful results of the cooperation between Egypt and those countries in specific regarding the industrial arena in general. But since you mentioned the gas issue, the fuel issue, sir, the readiness of the Suez Canal Economic Zone with its infrastructure made it a hub for green fuel industries, and our, of course, strategic location is another side of the coin, which is very beneficial. How do you see green transformation and green fuel industries as the future, and as something which we put it as a priority for our industrial strategies in general?
Well, to answer your question, it's very simple. Look how much money Norway is prepared to invest in green hydrogen projects in Suez Canal Economic Zone. Look how much money the Emirates are putting in, and look how much money the European Union in total are investing in providing green hydrogen, or manufacturing or processing green hydrogen. All this are indicative projects that show that Egypt is producing a hub. The fact that we had a problem with our gas production and so on does not make us does not set us back in that sense. Okay, fine, we had to pause for a while until the corrective measures or the exploration is enhanced further, so that more gas will be coming out. And I don't think by the end of the year, or maybe maximum first quarter of next year, we will be back as an LNG exporting country, and we will also have some hydrogen coming for production. Now, with the location, as you quite rightly mentioned, our location is second to none. Our geographic location is second to none. And everybody knows that, and everybody is aware of that. Now, as I said, with the devaluation of the Egyptian currency, that has encouraged a lot more industries to come and settle and expand over here.
And to what you have just said, sir, regarding our location and regarding being that lucky with having the 2 seas we have, we do have 6 seaports on the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. How do you see the integration between those 6 ports and our industrial zones to make it easier and to make the whole issue a source of attraction to more investments and to more businessmen who can easily find their job easier because of the infrastructure, because of the seaports, because of the incentives that they are receiving from the state, whether financial or non-financial?
Well, you see, the problem we have here, look, and we have to be very honest about it, is that we have a lot of ports, but they are working independently. And that is something which creates a bit of a confusion. If you look at Egypt from the outside as a foreigner, you will look at that some ports are owned by the Suez Canal Economic Zone, other ports are owned by the Ministry of Transport, other ports are owned by the Ministry of Petroleum, other ports are owned by the Navy, and they are not really working harmonically. It is extremely important that we develop, and this is something that should be taking place like yesterday, that we develop a master plan, and the master plan should show which port does what and how these ports completely can be integrated. Now, laws, financials, custom of each port should be well announced to the shipping industry. And actually, one of the reasons why there is a delegation from the International Chamber of Shipping visiting Egypt on the 4th of November is one of the reasons is why is to discuss that, because there has been going on quite a while a project within the International Chamber of Shipping promoted by some Egyptian parties here, and the International Chamber of Shipping is supporting it very heavily, that Egypt should be a world major hub in every respect, a maritime hub. Now, regardless of what's going on down the South Red Sea, that is another issue, but I think that is going to be temporary, and it is finding its way towards a solution within very short, in my personal opinion. Some more information, and I would like to add here that the cooperation between the Suez Canal Authority and the Suez Canal Economic Zone is now showing even more positive signs in towards the industry overall. Suez Canal Authority has always been looked at as just a waterway. But well, there are many buts, not just one but. The biggest but is that the Suez Canal Authority is a giant in every respect. They have shipyards, they have industrial manufacturing equipment, they manufacture boats, they build ships, they repair ships, they have an investment vehicle.
And logistics hub too.
And they in themselves, they are a logistics hub.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, if you combine the two together, they support a lot with the management of the ports in the Suez Canal Economic Zone. They have the dredging, so you don't need to dredge your ports by getting other dredges. They can supply offshore rigs and offshore fields because they got a massive fleet of tugs.
And as far as I remember, also we succeeded in green hydrogen refueling process.
That is another thing.
And it was more than once, by the way.
Yes, green hydrogen. These are all preliminary steps. You know, supplying, as you call, bunkering, green bunkering. Green bunkering is still in its initial phases. But of course, once we really move forward, and once the Suez Canal traffic, the maritime traffic, moves the way it should be moving, or the way it used to be moving, then I think there's going to be a lot more coming in. I mean, if the integration works properly, even if we are talking about what Suez Canal Authority has achieved last year in $10 billion, compared to what the potential is, after this integration, and if this master plan goes into process, I think $10 billion will be pocket change.
Oh, pocket?
Yes, pocket change, and I mean it.
Oh, we all hope so. But to return back to the Suez Canal Economic Zone and also to the Suez Canal Authority, you know, it's also a source of pride to know that there are very qualified Egyptian cadres who are running all these institutions on the ground, and they are capable of meeting with the foreign investors, foreign businessmen, startups, new entrepreneurs coming from all over the world, and they can also exchange views and eliminating all obstacles in front of them to make sure that their investments or their projects are going to turn into stories of success without any obstacles, or at least to be able to overcome all difficulties on the ground, if you agree with me on that.
Definitely, and there are many bodies in Egypt that are actually promoting this very strongly and very heavily. As I said, there's going to be the Suez Canal ICS cooperation, and they are coming with a small delegation to prepare for a major event sometime early next year, and that's going to be that Egypt as a major hub, world hub. That's promoted by the Suez Canal Authority primarily and the International Chamber of Shipping, as well as all the authorities that are related to the Suez Canal. This is the first step, and the International Chamber of Shipping have shown a great interest to express support to the Suez Canal Authority on the current crisis that's taking place on the Red Sea. And the integration between Suez Canal Authority and Suez Canal Economic Zone will only give a better opportunity for everybody, and will give the Europeans or the foreigners or the outside world a better understanding. That is one part of the business. Another part of the business, there is a major economic forum taking place sometime towards the second half of October, and that economic forum...
A month from now?
Yes, a month from now, yes. That economic forum is aimed at showing the country, this is Egypt. This is what we do. We have done so much development. I mean, not many people know that we have built 6 tunnels under the Suez Canal. Not many people, I'm not talking about outside world. Not many people know that we have built over 9,000 kilometers of road. Not many people know that the rail network has been totally replaced, or almost totally replaced. That's almost 12,000 kilometers. You're talking here about mega projects, massive projects, projects that are showing are long-term.
If you permit me, sir, I think many of these projects or many of these achievements which took place on the ground were discussed in the Egyptian EU investment conference, which took place just a few months ago, and there were many fruitful results after this conference between Egypt and EU partners coming from all over the world, and it's also a result of the strategic partnership between Egypt and the European Union, which started, or to be accurate, was in more depth since March 2024, when President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a number of EU leaders, and they discussed this strategic partnership in all levels, whether it's political, economic, social, cultural, even you name it.
That is very true, and that is going to become even bigger. But what we are really aiming for here is that Egypt is the center of the world.
Yeah.
And by being the center of the world, we are linking Europe with Asia, we are linking America with Asia, and we are linking the Arabian Gulf with Asia. Now, there has been a lot of talk about various corridors that are going to be running, the North-South corridor from Moscow to Tehran, and there's another corridor coming between Turkey and Iraq.
Land corridors, of
Land
course.
corridors, yes.
Okay.
And everybody has been claiming that these are going to be competitive to the Suez Canal, which of course is not, because, I mean, the Suez Canal is a macro giant. It's not really something that handles a train that carries 300 containers or 250 containers. You're talking about 25,000 containers on ships.
Yeah.
So there you are talking about a different scale altogether. If you're talking about the corridors that will affect the what you call the time-sensitive cargoes, That is a different story. Egypt qualifies to the best. First of all, on the One Belt, One Road, or the Silk Route as the Chinese call it.
Yeah.
They have been promoting rail network between Shanghai and all the way up to Ilford in England. So they go through the north all the way. Now that is being interrupted, or would be interrupted, because of the Russian war with Ukraine and the various sanctions and so on. And of course the ongoing economic war between Europe, America and China. That's not another thing. Now, the only alternative and the best alternative would be to take it south. So it will be going via Egypt into via the Arabian Gulf, and then it will hub over to the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor port called Gwadar in Pakistan, and then you can go there. The distance and the time consumed between those two legs, Egypt with 3 marine crossings, is even shorter of in distance.
Sir, you are talking about huge sums of money. Who is going to finance all this?
That is the irony of the whole thing. Everything is there. You are not going to need to finance anything other than the ferries, and the ferries are available. And in fact, Egypt has got enough of its own ferries to run one of the three services. The Chinese are very anxious. They are building ships hand over fist, and a lot of those ships are being leased out to companies that will take you.
Okay, this is great, but I'd like here to mention pros and cons.
Okay, these are the pros. There are a lot more pros. First of all, for Egypt, you will be promoting your perishable commodities into Europe much faster. You'll be promoting your industry, something like garments, like textiles, this kind of stuff will be moving into Europe in a much more organized way, and a just-in-time delivery. Less time and just-in-time delivery, which means that you do not accumulate a massive stock, which means that you're accumulating massive capital. That is going to be reduced tremendously. Of course, it will be reduced to the advantage and to the benefit of the consumers in Europe, and to the advantage of the producers in Egypt.
And vice versa?
Of course, the advantage to the producers in Egypt, because the producers in Egypt will not be under stress.
But this needs very, crucial agreements and deals over the customs or the tariffs.
That is very true, but you see, this is already taking place.
Because this is, I think, the main thing now between China and EU from a side, China and EU from one side, and China and the US from another side.
True, very true. But
so,
no, we have the GATT agreement, and the GATT agreement lifts a lot of customs restrictions.
I think between us and the BRICS countries, the case is not going to be that bad. But with other countries,
with EU?
This needs more. No, not only EU. Far from the BRICS, the case, is it going to be that easy, or it will need some deals before going to implement this on the ground to make sure that nothing is going to hinder the process?
Well, you already have the GATT agreement, and we are a member of the GATT agreement. And the GATT agreement has lifted a lot of customs restrictions between Egypt and various European consumers, Western consumers. Like, for example, customs on cars, duties on cars. There is a lot of reduction on duties on cars. That is one example of many. So the GATT agreement is going to make life a lot easier. It's already in place for even, I think, a couple of years. Now, that is one thing. Now, if you talk about BRICS, BRICS is the same. And what is going on with the new India-Europe corridor, and that the diversion is more, the attention is more focused on Egypt for the India-Europe corridor, because very simply, if they implement the current corridor that they are looking at, they will be losing Africa, because they're not passing through Egypt. And besides, they're going to be going to turbulent area. Look what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in the West Bank, and they want to pass through that with rail into Israel and then move it across to things. Nobody in his right mind will go through turbulent areas where there is hostilities of all types.
Conflicts in general.
Exactly.
But,
Again, the same as Iraq, Iraq-Turkey corridor. Iraq-Turkey corridor will be very restricted.
Yeah.
But if the Iraqi goods will pass via Egypt, or the Turkish goods pass via Egypt, it will make a lot more sense, and it will be a lot more creative. It will give these main countries, it will give them a lot more potential, because don't forget that Egypt is the head of COMESA.
Yeah.
And COMESA is a massive market in its own right, and a market that is not being even explored yet.
Until the moment. And what you're saying, sir, is reminding me of this dream, which was a dream and still unfortunately is a dream for years now, to have this railway route between Cairo and Johannesburg. Cairo,
Yes.
Cape Town, if I
Right.
may call it this way.
It's a highway, yeah.
Oh, and why until the moment this is not happening, this is not taking place? Is this another issue, or this is, I mean, this project is that much different from this one?
No, this project will be a little different, because it will focus more on connecting Europe, which is the market, with India, with China, and with the Commonwealth. Now, that is slightly more different than having
More
to go...
different, but as far as I understand, that Egypt is trying its best to help and to give a hand to our African allies.
Exactly.
And Africa is our strategic depth by the end of the day.
Most
and
certainly.
it was said more than once in the speech of Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli in front of the China-Africa Forum, which took place only a few days ago. The Prime Minister was there on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and he said it more than once. Egypt is working closely with our African allies for achieving sustainable development goals on the ground.
Precisely. And then, now, if you are talking about Egypt being the link, the hub, the land maritime hub for the Chinese trade, the One Belt, One Road, for the Indian routing, for the American routing via sea, even ocean, and most important, for the Commonwealth, for the British. The British have left the European community, or now they are with Brexit, and they are still suffering economically.
Yes.
Now, if you imagine a rail link that is connecting between England and Egypt, and then going on further to India, Pakistan, it means that you are connecting England, the head of the Commonwealth, with the African Commonwealth, because Egypt is head of COMESA, and COMESA and Commonwealth members are very much the same. A lot of members of COMESA are also Commonwealth members. So then you are connecting Africa Commonwealth with British Commonwealth. And who is the link? Who is the common denominator? Egypt. And the next step would be, okay, if we are going to go to Asia Commonwealth via rail into India and into Pakistan, then we have connected Africa, Britain, Europe, and Asia Commonwealth together by a regular link. Now, if you talk about the maritime system, you have the northwest routes going between Europe and Australia and New Zealand, and you have which Australia and New Zealand are also Commonwealth.
Yep.
Right now, if you see, there is the link between India, the road, and the belt. The only place in the world where those two meet is Egypt. So that qualifies you even more. Now, you see how many points they are selling to Egypt? A lot. My only critic of Egypt, and that is being corrected with that new forum, my only critic to Egypt is that a lot of people outside Egypt don't know what our capacity really is.
Our capacities and speaking more about the potentials we have is what we lack. True?
That is very true, and frankly, I mean, it goes as a small slogan that, okay, this is an Arabic poem which I'm not in a position to translate right now, but what I'm trying to say is that Egypt has risen in its industry, its infrastructure, it's risen in a lot of sectors. It has awakened, and the dawn is coming, and when the dawn comes, you have to wake up, and the forum is basically one of the alarms telling the world, wake up to what Egypt is doing.
Sir, when I dream of a world without COVID, without the Russian-Ukrainian struggle, and without the recent Israeli genocide war in Gaza. Think about how the world would be. Think about what we were about to enjoy without these three catastrophes on the ground. Because unfortunately, it was not only a pandemic. The European or the Israeli, the Russian-Ukrainian struggle is not only affecting Russia and Ukraine, and of course the Israeli genocide war with killing more than 41,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, and turning the Middle East into a region of conflicts with many fears that the conflict may expand to other countries. Think about it.
Well, Egypt would have been in a different place. But you have to also consider the Red Sea situation, where you have a basically...
All related to this.
Very true, very true.
All related to the Israeli genocide war in Gaza. If it was not taking place for nearly a year now, why should be these insecurity incidents taking place in the Red Sea? But sir, I'm going to leave this for a while and to speak about something which I don't know if this is going to be considered under the conspiracy theory or not. Now there is such tensions between China and America, China and the EU regarding the tariffs and customs and stuff like that. There is the Russian-Ukrainian conflicts, and so Europe is suffering because of this regarding the gas, fuel, supply chain, food insecurity, you name it. There are things which I think is given us some priority. I mean, we are prioritized when it comes to this. Should we seek this opportunity to promote more for Egypt as an economic hub? Should we see the opportunity to attract more investors from all over the world because they are suffering there from some political tensions? What?
Most certainly, of course. And that's exactly what we are supposed to be doing, and that's exactly what that particular effort on that particular forum would be concentrating upon. Concentrating upon, this is Egypt. Look at what Egypt is doing. Wake up to what Egypt is doing. Egypt can be your partner, can be your hub, but as a personal critic, I would say we need to look inside also to see if there's any stumbling stones in the way. They have to be removed. Red tape, like the irregularity of the taxman who taxation is very haphazard. Now only the Prime Minister has announced new tax laws altogether, and he's reforming the taxation. That's one thing. Other items is that, such as that more control on services rendered by government and by official bodies, that they are not going to be conflicting, or you can get away with one thing by doing this, and you don't get away with that if you're doing this. You know, this kind of thing. There has been, over the years, we have been having law after law after law, and but all the laws of there's so many loopholes.
Yeah.
And that is why some of those laws will conflict with each other, and that is where the government is really having a hard time cleaning up. What I would say, cleaning up the mess.
Yeah. And this is exactly what's taking place on the ground. I mean, just a few days ago, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi had a very important meeting with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli and Minister Hassan al-Khatib, Minister of Investment, speaking about the golden license, for example, and he had given his instructions or directives to enhance the role of the golden license, to make it easier for new entrepreneurs, for startups, for new men of industry to continue their path without any obstacles on the ground.
It's extremely important. This is the most important thing. Remember, we are not talking just about the big, massive conglomerates coming in, like the Norwegians putting in $7 billion to pick up a hydrogen factory, or the Chinese investing, I don't know, 16, 20, 30 billion, whatever. No, we're not talking about that at all. We are talking about the small manufacturers. How did Taiwan start? Taiwan started by a family of husband and wife with a few children, and they're sewing and knitting a couple of t-shirts here and a couple of t-shirts there, and suddenly they sell up dozens, and then the dozens are coming into hundreds of dozens, and that is where your foreign currency comes in. It's cheap, and you are exporting it with good money. Our currency is at its lowest at the moment, and it is advantageous to us to start exporting, because we get in return hard currency, which is badly needed. That is one thing. The other thing is that we need to streamline a lot of the smaller industries and support the smaller industries.
SMEs.
Exactly.
Sure, and this is also one of the priorities we have when it comes to our industrial sector. And if you permit me to add to this, localizing industry is very important, and it's also one of our priorities. And to urge or to give more incentives to businessmen and to investors to use our local components in more than 60 or even 70% of the products, localizing even our components, it's another side of the coin.
Definitely, and not just that. Remember that we are already doing that. I mean, look at a lot of retail shops in Oxford Street in England, for example. You walk in there into certain shops. I don't particularly want to mention names, of course, because I'm not supposed to. But they are selling brands, and then you take the brand. Oh, it's a beautiful brand, an international brand, and you look where it is made. It's made in Egypt. Okay, how much was it made in Egypt for pennies compared to them? And how much is it selling in Europe or in England for that much money? This is what we are trying to achieve. No, I mean, look at Malaysia. Malaysia is doing exactly the same thing. This is how Malaysia came out of the ashes. Malaysia before Mahathir Mohamad was a mess. Look at what they did, and because the most important thing is that they broke the red tape and they streamlined their operation. They knew exactly what they are doing, and the most important thing is that they wiped out all those old and those what I would say destructive rules and laws and actions. No, get everything aside. Let us start fresh. Let us build our country. And so they did. That is exactly what we need. We need to clean up all these rules and all these acts and these laws that have dragged us back. I mean, to give you another example, the Suez Canal Authority is a giant. And I have always been working as a maritime consultant throughout my life. I've been working in the maritime section. And I can tell you one thing. The worst thing you can do when a ship is steaming at full speed is drop the anchor. And that's exactly what's happening with the Suez Canal. We have a ship that is trying to steam full ahead with two anchors down in the water. Lift those anchors and watch what the Suez Canal will do. Now, this is only an example of an Egyptian authority. Now, imagine if this applies to the industry, it applies to the retail price, it applies to the services industry, it applies to all other services. Look at Singapore. Singapore is turning so much money. How much is the Philippines doing? The Philippines are turning over $50 billion in revenues from manning of ships outside to crewing ships worldwide. And Egypt qualifies to become a hub for maritime personnel, seafarers, and even for
this is going sir to lead me to the importance of what we call the sideline diplomacy, because in fact in all the high-ranking visits made by the top statesmen to many countries, they focus also on the economic side. I mean, when President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi went to Turkey, he met with businessmen, and he was also promoting for the Egyptian potentials we have regarding the economic and investment issues. When Prime Minister Dr. Madbouli was in China, he did the same. Even when Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdul Ati was touring a number of countries, last but not least, it was the UAE, and he met with Sultan Al Jaber, His Excellency, the UAE Minister of Industry and Investments. How do you see mixing this political visits with economic side? Because I cannot separate politics from economy. And if those top officials are in these visits without tackling the economic side, I don't think it's going to be beneficial for any side.
Well, let me put it this way. Politics can either make economy or break economy. If you have political interests that are causing conflicts, then your economy will suffer. If your economies are being well looked after, your politics is properly handled or handled directly, constructively, then you'll be taking off like a rocket. It's as simple as that.
So we hope that tomorrow is going to be a better day for all, and it's going to be a win-win situation for all.
We are telling the world, wake up to what Egypt is doing.
Wake up to what Egypt is doing.
Dawn is here.
I cannot find a better statement to use as a beautiful end for our episode. We were very much delighted to have you, sir, and we are going to leave you with a promise to see you again in more episodes of Money Means Business.
It will be my pleasure. Thank you very much.
We were very much delighted to have with us the engineer Shireen Al-Nagar, our international maritime consultant and expert. And now I'm going to leave you with the most important economic events which took place in the last 7 days. Many thanks for watching. This was Nermeen Abdurrahman.